Hi skiers, I'm Jeff, skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. Hello.
Welcome to what I'm pretty darn sure is episode 25 of our Top 5 Fridays news videos. Can you believe it? 25.
That's pretty good. Only my second here with you, but
Yeah, welcome Bob back to his second ever Top 5 Friday video. We're really going to try and have at least somebody else in these videos other than just myself going forward. Chances are it'll be Bob most of the time. But like Harrison's pretty funny.
yeah, it'd be good.
I think it'd be. I think you guys would enjoy it if we brought our shipping manager in. He's got quite a personality, quite well known locally, thanks to our snow report.
Yep.
He's got a lot of local fans.
Yeah, good following.
Yeah. Anyways, before we get into the news, I wanted to mention our new lease program. This is something that we spent a lot of time developing. We spent like months even just deciding what manufacturer to work with. So we partnered with K2, and it's really the first of its kind. So you can lease junior equipment, and you can do the whole thing just online, which I think is pretty cool.
Skis, snowboards, boots, bindings, poles, all the hard goods.
Yep, all the hard goods, and then you can add on like helmets and stuff too if you need. And yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, we all we ask that you do is provide us with their sizing info. And Bob, we kind of went through this with your daughters.
Yep.
So you submit like height, weight, age,
foot
size,
Yep.
and then like skier ability level and stuff like that. We set up all the equipment. We set the DINs. We do safety torque testing, all that stuff. And then when it gets to you, you just have to do like a quick digital signature kind of verifying that stuff, and then you just go skiing.
Yeah.
So it eliminates a trip to a ski shop, which I think is really beneficial for a lot of people, whether you don't have a ski shop near you or, you know, in COVID times, if you just don't want to go to a ski shop, this is a really good way to do it.
No, it's so convenient, and it's all new stuff too. I mean, it's all brand new stuff, you know. Our shop does a good job getting mostly new equipment. I think you can still opt for new or used, but this K2 stuff is brand new,
all new.
right out of the box. So it's nice to know that you're getting that quality of equipment as well.
Yeah, so check it out. You know, maybe it's not something that you're interested in, but maybe you know a family that doesn't ski as much as you, and this could be really beneficial for a family like that.
Yeah, and as a father of three, I think it's good to note that the lease program is really good for kids. And you can change it out for different size stuff throughout the year, whether you're in the shop or online. So it's nice to be able to do that.
You're a frequent leaser of junior equipment.
Oh, yeah. Proud
so
of it.
check it out. You may have seen it because we did put out a press release in partnership with K2 this week that was in kind of some Snow Sports Industries of America news and a few other things. So maybe you saw it already, but we wanted to mention it here as well. And that said, let's get straight into the news. So last week we mentioned that the World Cup season was kicking off in Solden. We'll just run through this real quickly, but successful race. Hopefully you guys got to watch it. These are usually shown on the Olympic channel, which I unfortunately don't get anymore, but you can find live streams of them if you're pretty creative with the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me it looked like a great race. I watched a lot of the men's race. On the men, a youngster from Norway named Lucas Bråten took his first ever win, first ever World Cup podium, skied great.
Yeah.
It was a gnarly course, and the middle section in particular was pretty demanding. You know, just throwing the skis sideways to get on their line and then letting them run from there. So pretty darn impressive skiing. On the women's side, Italy had a really good showing, taking 1 and 2 with Marta Bassino taking the win. We had no Michaela Schifrin in this race. Kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
We talked about that last week. Paula Moltzen, she was 10th on the women's side, which is darn good. Top 10 in a World Cup ski race is nothing to scoff at for sure.
No.
And then Tommy Ford took 22nd on the men's side, which is still pretty darn good.
Yeah, they're at the tip of that pyramid right there. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
Athleticism.
We got 3 weeks off until the next race, which is slalom in Austria. So hopefully that gives Michaela Schifrin enough time to heal up. To be fun to see her back.
Sure.
Always nice to have a strong U.S. presence in those races.
In ski racing, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we always have. And moving right along, second topic of the week. I bet you've heard about this if you follow skiing social media and stuff like that, especially if it's one of these brands. Eric Pollard has left Line after 21 years. Bob, I know you saw this news.
I did.
I'm sure you've watched Eric Pollard most of your skiing life. You know, unbelievable skier. He had a big part in kind of shaping the way that the sport went back in like the early 2000s.
Like way ahead of his time. You know,
Yeah.
just one of those skiers and innovators that just was, you know, a future person.
Yeah, drastically ahead of his time. So we heard that news a few days ago. Gentleman named Josh Malchik. I knew about this probably closer to a month ago that he was also leaving Line Skis.
Mm-hmm.
I did not put two and two together, but Eric and Josh have formed with two other people to start a new company called Season. I can only assume it's pronounced Equipment. They're spelling it season like the word and then EQPT.
Yeah, I don't know what else I'd say. Equipped.
Equipped, right.
Yeah.
If they're trying to be like Euro or something, it could be equipped. But pretty cool. They also partnered with a professional snowboarder named Austin Smith, and I'm probably going to get this last name wrong, but Andy Hygen, who was a ski designer from Armada.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. You know, they're kind of taking some pretty influential people from a few different spots in the industry. They're basically, it's kind of like small batch production stuff. Not many different skis in their line. They all get black top sheets to kind of like make you feel better about keeping your skis for more and more seasons.
Okay.
Instead of, you know, like releasing a new graphic and stuff like that. Yeah, pretty cool. They've got 3 shapes on the ski side. They're more all mountain skis than anything else. Like, you know, you might expect like them all to be twin tips because they're Eric Pollard. They do have a little rise in the tail, but they're all directional skis. And then one of them's got like a cool swallowtail shape, kind of like we saw in the Sakana and the Pescado. So pretty darn interesting. You know, I think it'll be really, really cool to see what comes out of this.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, I never really thought that partnership would end, the Eric Pollard and Line partnership. I'll try and find the photo, but there was a picture of like every ski that he's developed with Line over the past 21 years. And it's like
probably pretty extensive.
Ridiculous amount of skis.
No, it's a good resume.
Yeah, pretty cool. So always fascinated with what Eric Pollard's doing, and that'll be cool to see. Now, Bob, I sent you this video. I know you read the article. I know people have been talking about this a lot. Third topic of the week is 2 Colorado snowboarders have been charged with reckless endangerment after starting an avalanche, you know, not on purpose, but accidentally triggering an avalanche basically like right above I-70 in the Eisenhower Tunnel. And they buried the service road that connects I-70 to like some sort of avalanche mitigation thing and like some other equipment. They're being fined $168,000. I can't remember. I might have flipped those around. They're being fined
it's under 200,
close to $200,000. And yeah, it's really interesting. You know, I'm very interested to get your take on this, Bob. I think it's like important to say that, like, first of all, go watch the video, because I think that'll give you a good sense of what we're talking about. And if you haven't, it might be like a little bit out of context. They were clearly very knowledgeable guys.
Right.
I think the problem is they were so knowledgeable, you know, like the stance that they're taking in this lawsuit is that they were so knowledgeable that they knew what could have happened and did it anyways.
Right.
What did you think after watching it?
I thought when just watching the video that this takes the whole like throwing snowballs at cars when you're a kid to a whole another level. You know, just this huge amount, and like the consequence of the action was just huge.
Yeah.
You know, like if it was anywhere else, it's a non-starter. But the fact that it was above, you know, a major U.S. interstate, that's a big problem. You know, you can tell from the video that they are like instantly aware of this problem.
Instantly.
And their reaction is just so on point as to like what I feel like I would be in that situation. So it was really shocking to see like just the amount of snow. Like you're just blown away
Yeah.
with the outcome here.
I do give these two snowboarders a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Like and it's cool that the video is out in the public because you get like a really good feel for what was going down and what was going through their head. Like as soon as they triggered it and realized how bad it was, one of the first things that one of them said was like, "We got to get out of here."
Right.
They didn't. They after that they kind of like, I don't know if they calmed down, but they assessed the situation.
Yep.
They made sure they were safe first. They spent a lot of time choosing what path they were going to go, so it didn't get worse for them personally or for the road,
Right.
like the stuff that they're burying. They did that very, very well, and then they called it in, like immediately.
Right.
So
I don't know how you couldn't at that point. I mean, it's
Right.
just a huge mass.
I know one of them is a first responder.
Right.
So it'd be pretty bad if they didn't call it in, but they could have just left.
Right.
Now there's a lot of varying opinions out there about whether what's going to happen in this lawsuit. I think the most fascinating thing is this is the first time ever that criminal charges have been given because of triggering an avalanche.
Right. I was pretty surprised about that.
Yeah.
I think in the article, these guys say that they were surprised to learn that too.
Right.
Just given how many other incidents have happened with, one party being at fault for triggering an avalanche and having it be either destructive or injure or kill someone.
Right.
That the amount of times that that's happened, they were surprised that they were the first.
Yeah.
That they were the first to undergo this.
So I think in my opinion, two big takeaways here. The first is, depending on what the result is, this could set a pretty significant precedent going forward.
Yeah.
It's throwing in another variable that you got to think about. You don't want to trigger an avalanche and get fined $250,000 or something.
Right, and I think that that's going to be like that lesson is going to be learned by a lot of people going in the backcountry that you are responsible for more than just you and your own party. So I think that's going to be the outcome of this in the ski world.
Yeah, and I think the other takeaway and I think probably the best benefit to this in the long run and overall is from all the trends that are going on in skiing and in the world in general right now. There are going to be more people in the backcountry this season. There are going to be new people in the backcountry. Yeah. This video is a really, really good example of how quickly something can go wrong, even if you're making like pretty much all the right choices.
Yeah.
Like you're going through everything step by step. Like they were cautious about approaching their line. They didn't do anything like necessarily wrong other than the decision to be there in the first place.
Yeah, you never think that something's going to go wrong, just like the snowballs at the car, and all of a sudden you cause an accident.
Right.
And you don't ever think that could happen, but you're still, they still did it above the interstate.
Right.
That's a big mistake.
And it's a popular zone.
Right.
I mean, every time I drive through there and like right before you enter the Eisenhower Tunnel, I'm always like,
yeah, that looks great up there.
Looking up, looking for people's lines and stuff like that. So, I know other people ski that terrain. It's just really interesting. I'm glad we could chat about it. Interested in all of your opinions. So let us know in the comments. I can't really put fault on either side necessarily. I totally understand.
Yeah.
I totally understand it.
I mean, they broke the avalanche measure, and now they have to pay for it. Like it seems like that's
Yeah, there were some funny comments that I read. People saying like, I guess the avalanche mitigation system didn't work very well.
Right. I mean, it was just a huge amount of snow.
It was a huge avalanche. Yeah. It started with a pretty small crown, and then it was the type of avalanche that just like picked up more and more and more as it went.
Yeah.
Well, this will, we'll definitely keep an eye on this and let you guys know as we hear more about it.
Their reaction was just priceless, though.
Yeah.
Just priceless.
Now you got to watch the video because it's if it doesn't gather your attention, I don't know what could.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, even though I knew what happened already. So yeah, check it out if you haven't already. Last topic is Snow Sports Industries of America have announced a program called Climate United. Pretty cool, Bob, don't you think? They're basically getting businesses involved in outdoor sports to pledge to reduce carbon emissions by 50% or to 50% by 2030. I guess that's the same thing. Reducing by or
Yeah,
to.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not good at math.
that's the same thing. And then to 0% by 2050.
Yeah.
So pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's important I think it's great to see SIA as like a leader on this.
And we see it here in our business about, just the amount of transportation costs that we use
Yeah.
and, these other companies that are, feeding us,
Yeah.
it works with them too. So, and they are all recognizing that this is an industry-wide issue that,
Yeah.
should be addressed. So, and they're offering, basically consultation on how to reduce your footprint and your emissions and, just general practices. So,
Yeah.
that list of companies like Burton and 22 Designs and some other ones that have signed on with this company, that's good for them. They're going to save money in the long run too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then in similar news, or fairly similar news, North Face has launched a $7 million initiative focused on bringing racial diversity to the outdoors.
Cool.
That's called Reset Normal. And this is something that we've been talking about kind of on and off all summer.
Yeah.
Is how do we get more diversity in the sport of skiing and introduce it to new audiences?
Yeah.
We presented the question to our audience probably a couple months ago at this point. Maybe somebody from North Face was watching Top 5 Fridays.
Imagine that.
It could have happened.
Yep.
I'm just saying, it could have happened. But really cool to see. I think it's great. It's 2020. Let's bring more diversity into skiing.
Yep.
That's it for news. We got a pretty stacked list of edits of the week this week. First up, we have 13-year-old Kai Jones at Jackson Hole with TGR. Just another ripper.
Imagine just growing up there and having that lineage and then having the modern equipment these days.
I cannot
It'd just
imagine.
be unbelievable.
I was still skiing on straight skis when I was 13. I'm sure you were too.
I was.
I am 100% sure you were too. But you were doing like triple spreads on straight skis.
I never got a triple under my belt. Just a double.
I don't believe you.
I tried.
We'll work on that
Okay.
this season.
That's my goal.
We'll get Bob to do some triple spreads this season. Next, we have a edit called Super Spring Sesh from Marcus Etter. We've had a few different edits from Marcus Etter recently. This one's just like a feel-good spring skiing in the sun with his friends. My favorite kind of vibe in a ski edit. This one actually got sent in from one of you guys, so thank you. And I think that's a good opportunity to say if you guys ever have an edit that you want us to share, just send it over, and if we like it, we'll absolutely include it. This is the Snow Ledge team edit from the 1920 ski season.
Whoa.
The only way I can describe it is it's some really good vibes.
Yeah, 100 years ago. That's crazy.
What did I say?
1920?
Oh, well, the 2019-2020 ski season. Thank you, Bob. It was not from 1920.
I thought that would be much more interesting.
Yeah, I just think that's fair to say that would be more interesting, but this is still really good. They got some really good drone shots in there, too. It's cool that, like, drone footage is just, like, a thing that kind of anyone can go out and get now.
And then Zeppelins back in 1920.
Yeah.
Zeppelin footage.
Anyways, the last edit of the week. This was my pick for the week. A lot of you guys have been asking about Faction skis and our comparison videos. A lot of you want to see us pick up Faction as a brand. I do think it's probably going to happen. Probably isn't going to be something that you see from us like in immediate months, but be patient, and I do think you'll see them pop up on Ski Essentials. And in light of that, there's a new Faction team edit that's like, it's one of the craziest things I've seen.
Is Candide in it?
No. No, it's more younger park-focused guys. There's Alex Hall, there's Daniel Hanka, a few other like really, really good names, and then some younger guys too that are kind of like It's kind of like Auntie Olila is also in it, and it feels a little bit like them, like passing the torch.
Yeah.
Some unbelievable tricks in there. The kids these days in the park are insane.
Are they doing ballet tricks?
Not yet, but there's a Switch quadruple rodeo 1620.
I don't think that exists.
Anyways, that's Top 5 Fridays. Bob, thank you for joining me.
That's fun.
Anything you want to leave our audience with?
Not particularly. It's a beautiful, sunny, 70-degree late October day here in Vermont.
Yeah, I played golf this morning. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I blew some leaves on my lunch break.
I almost beat my neighbor.
Next
You next time, Tad. I'm sure he's not watching this, but I hope he is. Anyways, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.